Testing 1, 2, 3. Let's see. All right. So in this live stream, we're going to be fixing the, well, actually finishing the reload animation for the bolt. The reload mechanic. So yeah, let's go for it. So as you can see right now, everything works. I can pick up the bowl. I can shoot the arrow. Right now, the arrow on the character's right arm, it appears. It always appears, so it doesn't. It's not really realistic. It's not really what we want. But as you can see, it's just for positioning the bowl, the arrow on the character's arm. As you can see, it pretty much looks very good. As you can see right here, you can pretty much see how the result is going to be like when the arrow is going to be on the character's hand. Howbo said a question from Unreal Newbie. Okay, what is the most important mechanism topic to properly master in Unreal? I think there's no very like the most important mechanism and topic. It pretty much depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to give an example of in my area, as I do character locomotion mechanics for third-person characters, like this one right here. This is a third-person project which uses the GASP system. And what I do is just implement functionalities such as, you know, systems such as shooting with the rifle, making the characters do some parkour stuff, parkour related movements. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And basically the tutorials I do. So, well, the most important thing is to master is firstly the blueprints, because without the blueprints, you cannot do any other thing, like such as animations. So I don't know. I think there's no specific topic, but if I could give you a very simple tip, I think a very good topic is the communication between blueprints, because I think that's the hardest part. I think that's the hardest. It's the hardest topic. It's the hardest thing to do, especially for a beginner, because you don't really know how to communicate blueprints with each other. So basically, what is blueprint communication is basically when you want to basically read a variable from, for example, the sandbox character, which is the character blueprint. So basically, let's say if you have a variable called, I don't know, is shooting, for example, and you want to read that variable called is shooting inside the sandbox, inside the animation blueprint. So we already have everything set up in here, but usually what you do is get the event blueprint initialize animation, or there's also the begin play. There's also the begin play. You can also use that, but this is the most usually best way to do it. So as soon as the animation blueprint initializes, we set the references. So what we do here is just cast to the CBP sandbox character. we use promote it to a reference, and then we promote this other variable in here, which is don't need to worry about this. But the main part here is that you can use the cast node so that you can promote this to a variable, which is going to make it so that it's available for you to be able to pick up that variable and then get the reference of the issuing variable, like in here. So yeah, I think there's no specific topic. It's just like being able to handle the blueprint communications well in a way that it's very performant, and basically just learn. For real, blueprints really did boil my brain during the first week of understanding Unreal. Yeah, especially in the beginning, it's very hard, but yeah, I'm thinking about making a course so that I can basically explain everything, but even explaining it's hard to understand. So if I would have to create a course, it would be better to explain everything in detail and make it as clear as possible. But anyways, let me just see. Reload. So what we're gonna want to try to do in here is just basically, we already have the location of where the arrow is going to be in the character's hand, which looks great. So as you can see, we have already tested out. It already looks great. If I try to reload, as you can see, it looks really great. We just have a minor issue right there. As you can see, the arrow goes through the mesh, through the bolt mesh, and that looks bad, as you can see as soon as you reload. I don't know if that's a problem of the animation itself. Let me just check it out. Let me just reload state. Reload. Yeah, that looks weird. Yeah. The ball is positioned wrong. The reason why that's happening is because I have two different animations from two different packs. So you might have different results. In one animation, the character might be holding the ball differently from the other pack. So that's why you have those issues of, you know, getting the ball to be placed a little bit weird. So we can fix those issues later. Oops. We can fix those issues later, or we could try to make some changes in here just to minimize that issue. So let's say, for example, in here, I want to minimize this issue in here. So what I want to do is, at the end of the animation, the arrow gets placed this way, and that's totally okay. That's because we're using a different pack of animations that we're using. So what I want to do in here is just basically move the character's arm. Just maybe the hand could be maybe you could just move the hand to be like this. I think that could be a fix. But before doing that, I want to make sure that let me just see where can I edit that animation, because usually there is a key here so that we can add the bone tracks. So as soon as you click on this key in here, you're going to basically edit the key, but I'm not getting anything to be edited in here. So as you can see, let me just, okay, because this is a animation montage. I cannot edit animation montages, but I can edit in here. So let me just open up the reload animation again. So I'm going to go reload. I'm going to want to get the Ball reload. I just gotta name this to be ball reload because shoot. This is actually shoot. This one single animation also serves for shooting. Pretty much name it to be ball reload. Or maybe ball shoot reload, something like this. And then I'm also going to rename this montage in here to be the same thing, but this is a montage, so just leave the naming there. Alright, so the animation sequence is in here. So as you can see, the right arm is basically very far away. It's glitching through the mesh. So what I'm gonna do here is just get the hand R of the character and then just basically change the location of it, maybe rotate it. Let me just see. Just rotate it like this. And then in here we can just press the key button. It's going to glitch a little bit in the mesh, but that's okay. We're not making a AAA game right now. But you can see the result is very good. It's very much good. Now I'm going to apply the changes by just usually to apply the changes you would usually click on apply compression. I don't know why I do this. I've seen many people do this. Maybe it works to click on apply compression just to save the changes, but I think you don't really need to do this. And I'm just going to press on play to see if the error is going to glitch on the ball as well. Yeah, it's going to it is still glitching. Let me just see on the sandbox character, sandbox. Let me just see how the layering is being done in here. Instead of doing 2 for the spine, 4, I'm going to do 0 so that we can have that full blend on the upper body. Felipe Games said, salve meu consagrado, salve. Tudo bom por aí? Tudo de buenas. Tranquilo. Yeah, this is a very annoying bug. annoying glitch that I don't know how to fix yet. Maybe it's the animation, maybe it's the blending, maybe it's the amount of blending, maybe it's a different bone name that you have to set in here. It could be many things. Maybe it's the alpha value that's blending out too much early, it's blending out too much early, the animation itself. So I have to check this out later. If you go back to the bow reload montage, you can really see here on the asset details, the blend time out, the blend out time, which basically defines the blend out, like how long it is going to take for the animation to blend out. And in here in this case, it's 0.5, which means that it's going to take 5 milliseconds for the animation to blend out to transition to another animation. So in case here we're just playing the reload bow animation, and it's going to take basically 5 seconds for that animation to end. So when the animation ends, I want to have a nice smooth blend out transition to play whatever the next animation is. I think my mic is a little bit loud. I'm not sure. Let me know. The blend time here, I'm going to select the .2. I think it's a good value. We're using the blend mode out to be standard. The blend mode in, we're going to use initialization. I don't know if this is a very good method. We're going to have to test new things out. But let's test it out again. Reduce the blend out time. Yeah, almost there. Let me just see how the slot. Of course, we don't really need to spend that much time on this, because this is just a minor issue, minor things, just, you know, refinement things that we have to do after the project is half done. But it's always good to have everything working well and well refined before we can add the new features on top. So as you can see, I'm simulating here. This reload slot is going to override the overlay state. Now this code, the whole code is getting a little bit overcomplicated. It very much looks overcomplicated, especially for a beginner who's starting out. But yeah, we cannot get something very good, very cool, very simplified. But a good example of this is the ALS. The ALS has is a very complex project, but when you take a look at it, it's very, you know, all the sections are very well distributed and very well organized. And that's not something that we should prioritize right now. We're just trying to make things to work as much cleaner as possible, as much fast as possible. And we're just prototyping, so things are going to look a little bit messy here, as it should, on the prototyping phase, of course. So when I press on reload, as you can see, that animation is going to be played. I really have to pay attention to the number that says -2. I think it's blending out too much early. Let me just see on the sandbox character. The reload animation when you press R. I think I gotta go to the weapon reload graph. And as you can see here, it pretty much tells you when we should blend out from the animation. So I think the bow reload animation, the blend out time should be something like 0.5, because as soon as we blend out, we have another type of blend to set the timeline, so that it's going to set the alpha value, which is going to also have a blend out time. Yeah, I think it's better to set it to be 15. And delete the smoothing. Set the graph to be linear. I think that's gonna help. And delete this curve in here, so to make it much more linear. Yeah, I think we cannot get a better result than this for now, but in the future we might do animation refinement, which is going to make the animations to look a lot nicer, because yeah, the result of coding is just going to depend on like how much good the animations are. So if you have a good gameplay developer, a good locomotion developer, and if you have good animations, then it's a very good combination. There is a high chance that you can basically make a good locomotion system if you have a good animator and a good locomotion designer. I think so. So yeah, let's just fix, I think this is enough right now. So as you can see, when you press R, we can reload and it looks nice. I think I'm pretty satisfied with this result right now. If you don't understand like anything, or if you have any doubt about any node, like for example, how the timeline works, or how the heck the reload slot works, or how the heck the cache works, just let me know. But of course, I don't know everything. So for example, I don't know how the additive animation like 100% works. I don't really know how it works 100%, but I have an idea of how it works. For example, the additive identity pose, I think this is a new node that I don't know yet. So it's not everything that I can answer, but I can try to answer the things that I know. So as we have the socket, the right socket for placing the arrow on the character's end, as you can see right here, it looks very nice. I think that's the location that we want. Now what we're gonna want to do is go to the viewport and select that arrow. I don't want that arrow anymore, so I'm just going to delete it. Delete that arrow. Nice. Compile, save. There we go. Now I think I want to make that arrow appear when the character yeah, I'm trying to think about something here. Maybe I can, so as soon as the character picks up the bow, if I start to aim, the character is going to firstly reload, which is going to make the character to pick up the bow from his back, from the, I always miss the name. I always confuse the name bow and arrow. So the character is going to pick up the arrow on his back, right, when he aims. And that's it. So when so what we're gonna do is just basically, wait, let me see. Current pocket ammo capacity, current ammo quantity is 1. We're gonna have to work on this sort of inventory system. As you can see, the current ammo quantity is 1, which would mean that I think we can treat this variable called current ammo quantity to be something like current ammo loaded, actually loaded into the weapon, which means that if the ammo is loaded and the current ammo quantity equals to 1 in case of the bow, the character would be holding the bow and the arrow in the arm. So the arrow would be in here if the current ammo quantity equals to 1. If it equals to 0, then that means that if you aim for the first time, if we have ammo available in the character's pocket, that means that we're going to subtract the quantity 5, because we're going to be utilizing the arrow for loading the bow with the ammo, which is the arrow. And that means that as soon as we reload, the 5 number is going to decrease to 4 because we've used an arrow from the pocket, right? So I think that's the best way that we can work with the bow in this case. Guy Ju said, is it realistic to create your own joke game like the Stanley Parable or something like that, or should you find someone to team up with? I don't have any experience with making games, but what I can say is just whatever makes sense to you. Let me just see what the Stanley Parables is about. I don't know this game, so I'm just going to search it up real quick. What is it about? Let me just see. Yeah, I think it's very good. I like those kind of games. Should you find someone to team up with? Yeah, I think it's very much up to you. If you can do it if you can do the game yourself, there's no problem with that. But if you can find someone to team up with that you really think that they have enough skills to be able to make the game that you want, and perhaps share the profits later, I think it's the best option to follow. Because for making a game, you really need the models, the 3D models, the locomotion systems, the backend logic part. So I think teaming up with people would be the best option. We're gonna have to team up with people who are really willing to make the game happen, and who are already skilled at something. So maybe making the models, making the storytelling, but it's definitely possible. It's totally possible. Everything's possible. All right. No problem. So I'm going to add the current, as you can see, when I pick up the bow, it says current ammo quantity is 1. It's as if as soon as you pick up the bow, the arrow is already going to be emplaced with the bow. So that's not the case. I don't want to make it like that. So I'm going to edit the current ammo quantity 1 to be 0. And as soon as I pick up the bow and I start to reload, or I press the reload button, the character is going to pick up the arrow from his back. I think in total we have 5 arrows on his back, so we're going to subtract the current pocket ammo quantity to 1, so that's going to be 4, and we're going to add the current ammo quantity to 1 as soon as the character reloads, and that's going to make it to be more sense. It's going to make it to be more sense. It's going to make more sense. So I'm going to edit the current ammo quantity to 0. So we're going to go to the bow child, class default. And that's usually the settings that you want to change in here on the right panel side on the details. You can see the default values. So the current weapon quantity, I'm going to set it to be 0. And the ammo capacity is the amount of ammo that you can fit in the type of weapon that you can reload. So in this case, for the bow, we can only shoot with just one arrow at a time. You can only reload once, just one. You can just reload the bow with only one arrow, and that's basically. I think that's pretty much all you got to do in here. Just change the current weapon ammo quantity. The character looks very weird when his the character's head looks very weird when he's reloading, but that's okay for now. Yeah, for now, I think we shouldn't really worry about much. We shouldn't really worry about making the animations look great. We're much worried about the backend of the code, because if the backend is good, you can really improve the visual aspects of the game, later. So if we can build a pretty good solid backend logic first, we can pretty much decide to we have a really high chance to fix the visual bugs, because most of the visual bugs could be fixed by either making the animations to look better, or making additive animations, making a better layering system, depending on which animations we were going to be playing. So maybe for the reload bow animations could be fixed by just replacing the animation, or making a separate layer system, so that, as I've done in here, I've made a separate layering system just for playing the reload animations for the bow and the pistol. But maybe the reload animation is not going to be looking good with the rifle, because maybe the rifle is part of another animation pack, and that animation pack is it doesn't look the same as the stand base pose of the idle animation of the rifle, so that could be in conflict. So that's why it's better to create the backend logic, just emphasize it a little bit more and focus on it much more than the visual aspects of the game, because we can all fix this later to make it look better. So as you can see here, when I reload, the character head the character heads move a little bit weird to the side and looks very fast. It looks bad, but as you can see, this is just small details that you can see visually. But in the backend, if the backend is good, is well constructed, and it's very solid, you can easily fix the visual aspects of the game later, because you already have the base, the backend just in place, and very good, well constructed. So that's what I think. So we're gonna have to create a reload logic in here. For it, what we have in here right now is just the animation logic for playing the animations. So this section here is designed for reload, for playing reload animations for any type of weapon. So as you can see, we have separated by sections in here. We use a switch to separate which animation we want to, which reload animation we want to play, depending on which weapon we are currently equipped with. So in case we're equipped with the bow currently, we're going to play the montage, the bow montage. We're going to select the play rate. If you want to select the starting position, you can just, you know, add a new pin to the input pin in here on the montage. And you can set other things in here. There are other ways to, better ways and more optimized ways to do this. But for example, right now it's just really enough. We don't really need to optimize the game right now. But if we feel like the game is, the project in this case is lagging or suffering from performance issues, then we can think about making it more performant. But that's not an issue right now. I have a lot of ideas to make it more performant, but that's not a worry about right now. So in this case, I'm going to get a switch, not actually switch by sequence. And then out of the sequence, I'm going to get a, let me see what I have to do. So when you press R, we get the weapon reference of whatever weapon the character is equipped with. So if I'm equipped with the bow, which means that the character is really holding the bow in his hands, it's not holstered, is equipped. So if as soon as we find that weapon, if that weapon is found, we go to true, and in here we find which type of weapon that is. And then from here, we have to get the weapon reference. So I'm going to use this variable in here. I'm going to just retrieve it by getting the saved weapon reference, the same variable. I'm going to check for the current ammo quantity. Right now, if it equals to 0, means that I want to reload. So as soon as I press R, if the ammo quantity, if there are no arrows on the bow, which means that it's going to be 0, I want to reload. So this section here is for reloading. So reload with the bow. I think we're gonna have to match this with the animation itself. So we're gonna have to do everything together with the animation, synchronize with the animation, because that makes more sense. So we're going to use animation notifies. I think that makes more sense. So we're going to go to the montage of the reload bow animation. And in here, on the animation, on the montage animation, I'm going to add a new notify state and get the montage notify window. And on the notify name, you can select any name that you want. It's just for better, you know, memorization. But you can choose any name. So let's say reload arrow, something like this. It's just something to remember what it is about. And I'm just going to make the blend out time to be 0.2 to have a nice, I think it's going to have a nicer blending. I'm going to make it 15. I think it's going to be better. Now, as you can see, when the character reaches his hand on the back, we're going to set the starting position in here on this animation. So it's not going to look perfect. As you can see, I think this arrow is a little bit longer than the arrows that are in the pocket, I think. But that's okay. We're not really worried about perfection right now. Just those visual aspects, they could be fixed later with a very good animator. It's just about the refinement phase. So we're just worried about the backend logic right now, which really matters that much more than the visual aspects, the visual bugs or glitches that appear. So at this starting point, we're going to be able to pick up the arrow. I think you don't really need to set up the end point in here, because we're just worried about this notification here as soon as the character picks up, reaches his end on the back. I think that's the point that we want in the animation to be notified. So as soon as the character, yeah, let me just see, or I think this is going to be, it's going to be better to check if the character needs to reload before reloading. So so when we press R, it's going to check, it's going to get the whatever weapon the character is equipped with. We're going to get that weapon reference, and if the current ammo quantity equals to 0 and the current pocket ammo quantity equals to more than 1, so if there's at least more than one weapon, more than one arrow in the character's pocket, then that means that we should continue our execution. And let me just, so only then I can move on to playing the animation so that we can reload. I think that's the best way to make the structure. As you can see, the structure is really easy to set up. It's just that you really have to know how to make a really good parent, a really good children out of that parent, and be able to get those properties of the parent and the children, and be able to retrieve those values and those properties and set them up. So here on the onNotify begin, I'm going to I'm going to disable the visibility of the, so let me just get the set visibility. Of the arrow 1. So as soon as the character picks up the arrow on his back, I'm going to reduce the visibility of the arrows in here. What else? Oh, yes. If you go to the GFN menu, can go to arrows. I want to have this socket here to be placed in there. So I'm going to attach. I think I'm going to use the node attach component to component. The socket name is going to be hand R arrow. And let me just see the function. There is a function called holster equip that we use that same node in here. So the target is going to be the active reference of the blueprint that you want to, either the blueprint or just the arrow Or maybe I can do something different in there. Maybe it's going to be better to detach it first and then attach it to the character's hand. I think that's going to be better. So you're going to, I think I'm going to just copy or maybe just follow the same settings. So the location rule is going to be snap to target, and the parent is going to be the mesh of the character. And we also have this mesh automatic selection, which is going to basically select the mesh, the right mesh, depending on which character you're using. So if you're using a different character, like this one right here, we're going to be really attaching the characters. We're going to be really attaching in the right socket, which is going to fix the hand glitching, or the hand, or the we're going to fix the weapon glitching in the character's hand, so that the weapon is not going to be really floating on the character's hand if you change the mesh. So it's good to have this mesh automatic selection here. So I'm just going to copy and paste the same node in here. And I'm going to go back to here and get that, and just copy the hand R arrow. And then get that weapon breath. I think you don't need to set the visibility, just get that. Yeah, so I think just, disabling the visibility is better, because we're going to have to spawn. No, maybe not. Maybe just getting the arrow reference. For example, the arrow 1. We're going to plug that into the notify begin. So that as soon as the character reaches his hand on the back, he's going to pick up the arrow. And we're going to select a arrow to pick up. As you can see on the pocket, we have a lot of arrow references. So maybe let's get the weapon arrow 1. Let's make the character to pick up the weapon 1. So the first thing that we should take in place right here in Notion, first thing we should look at in here is that the arrow 1 is attached to the character's spine 4 socket, created socket. So what we should do first is basically detach from the spine and basically follow the same settings. Maybe not detaching only is going to work, but we're gonna have to just see which option is better. Detach from component. Yeah, let's try to do this and let's see what happens. I'm very curious to see what the result is going to be like. I'm going to keep the location, rotation, scale rule to snap to target. I think the scale rule could be keep world, because we don't want to change the... So we're going to keep world because we don't want to change the size of the arrow at all. So I'm just going to save this before, if it crashes, we're going to know why. I'm going to pick up the bow and let's see if this code is going to be executed, because it's just a test, so we don't know if it's going to really work. So as you can see, the current ammo quantity is 0, which means that we don't have any arrows in the bow, and the current pocket ammo quantity is 5. I just forgot to just set what's going to be the actual set the current ammo quantity after we subtract it. So we're going to get the current ammo quantity. Sorry, the pocket. Yeah, we're gonna have to set set the pocket ammo quantity. So we're going to get the current pocket ammo quantity and subtract it by 1. I'm going to get the ammo capacity. I think that the default value is 0, but we shouldn't worry about this. I'm going to get the ammo capacity because it says 1, and set the current weapon ammo quantity. So we're going to have to update two variables at the same time. And really find a way to just update those variables in there. So what you want to do is just, when you pick up the bow, as you can see, the information of all the ammo is represented into the print strings. In the print strings, as you can see, the current ammo quantity is 0. So as soon as you press R and execute the animation, I want this number to change to 1. And I'm going to basically read from the ammo capacity, because we can just reload just one arrow at the same one at a time. So the maximum capacity that the bow can handle of ammo of arrows is just 1. So we're just going to read from the ammo capacity. We're going to just add 1 in here and subtract the 5. So what we're basically going to do is just add 1 here and subtract it by 1. And that's it. So the current ammo quantity is going to receive 1, and the current pocket ammo quantity is going to be subtracted. All right, so let's just test it out to see if it's going to work. Pick up the bowl, pick up the bowl, and try to press the R to see if it's going to work. All right, I think it worked. Pick up the bowl again, press R, and it worked. Now I can shoot. As you can see, when I press R, the current ammo quantity is now 1, and the current pocket ammo quantity is 4, which means that we just picked up from the pocket. The ammo capacity is 1, is the same, which means it worked. Now the problem here is that we have a lot of arrows, and we need to decide which arrow was used to shoot. And we need to know the references of them. So I think we can use a node called isValid. I don't know if this node is going to apply for components, but yeah, it is going to be applied for components. So I'm going to make an array out of those references. And as soon as I reload, I want to take just one out of that list that is valid, and basically pick up from that list. So we have an array in here. We can make a for each loop with the break to not make the code expensive. To run. And from this, we can just basically get the isValid. I think I'm going to make a macro in here. I'm going to choose a name to be called arrow selector. And whatever reference is valid in here, we're going to be able to pick it up, but we're going to have to get a Boolean first. So we're going to add a Boolean variable and call this ammo. In this case, arrow ammo is available. So we're going to set this value here to be off, to be disabled first. And then if one of these arrows are available, we're going to just pick one. So if the first arrow is valid, we're going to pick that first reference. And the array element is going to be in the output. I don't know if you're going to really need to create a variable out of this, but that's okay. So we're going to break the execution if it is found. And on completed, we're going to check if the arrow is available. If the arrow is available, we're going to proceed with the execution. If it's not available, then we can handle it differently. But it's going to be very, very hard to be false. And the arrow reference is going to be, yeah, we're going to have to promote that as well. So arrow ref. Going to get arrow ref. All right, let's test it out. Press and play, pick up. So if I reload, as you can see, one arrow disappeared there. And if I shoot, now if I shoot, the arrow that is on the character's hand does not really do anything, doesn't move. But what we can do is basically for now disable the visibility or to just destroy that arrow, because we're going to want to make a very simple system right now. We're just not really worried about the visual aspects. So let's just make everything just really quick. So get the arrow ref and just destroy the reference, because we're going to be spawning a arrow that contains the components necessary for launching that launching the arrow away. Now I don't really know if the real I think I can get better ways to do this, but for now we're going to stick with this option in here. Of course, there's a lot of options you can follow in order to make this work, but for now, just to visually see how it's going to go, how everything is going to happen, we're going to just destroy the arrow. I think that's going to make us to be able to prototype faster. But there are certainly ways, better ways to do this. So press R. Yeah, it's not. Destroy component is going to be after we shoot. So I'm going to go back to the weapon shooting. As soon as we shoot, we're going to check before shooting. So it's pressing aim, and then in here we're going to get the weapon as equipped, and then finally we're going to shoot. If the character has the necessary bullets. And after we shoot, we're going to get the saved weapon reference. We're going to get the weapon tag or a weapon type. We're going to use the switch to see if the type of weapon we're shooting is the bow in this case. So if it is the bow, we're going to destroy the arrow reference because we don't want to keep the arrow reference in there. We're going to press on play and see what happens. As you can see, I have reloaded with the arrow. So as soon as I shoot, as you can see, it really looks like the like the arrow was launched from the beginning. Maybe I could place, let me just see if I can get something to really work well in here. If I can get the location of the arrow to be placed, of the projectile to be spawned at the right location of where the arrow reference is, I can make it so that we don't really necessarily need to have the actual blueprints instead of the skeletal mesh into the character's pocket, which is going to make it to be more performant. So what I want to do in here is just get to the code where the weapon, where we shoot with the weapon. So weapon shooting. So here I have the shoot event, and here I have the spot transform location. Spot transform location. I think you don't really need to use the location, the reference location of the arrow, but I think the right way to do this would be getting the character's mesh, get the socket location, and then get the socket location of where the arrow is. So of course we're gonna have to refine this later to better make the precision of the aiming better. That's what you want, to make the aim as much precise as possible. But if you go to the sandbox character with mannequin, we have the position of where the arrow is going to be on the character's hand. So I'm just going to copy that name and just copy. Let me just see it. Copy selected sockets, or just copy the name in here right below. We're going to add the socket. I think actually we're going to get the socket transform because it gets the location and rotation at the same time. So let me just get the socket name, which is right over here. So we're going to split the structure and get the socket rotation location in there. And let's see, I think we're going to get better results. Let me just zoom out, zoom in, expand the screen to see. So when we reload, we're going to pick up the arrow. So as soon as you shoot, yeah, I think it went. I think it went upwards. I think it went upwards. Let me just see why. I think the rotation is wrong. We're gonna have to edit the rotation. Now I'm not sure if we're gonna have to edit the rotation in the blueprint itself or in the rotation of the blueprint itself, or in the rotation right after getting the socket transform. So let me just see what happens in here. So when I pick up the bow, we reload with the arrow, and then as soon as we shoot, yeah, it gets pawned upwards. So if you just try to get the weapon reference and get the location and rotation of that, let me just see how it goes, because it's not really necessary. You have a lot of ways to make it to be very, very realistic visually. But I think, yeah, this is I think this is already enough to make it realistic. We don't really need to really focus on it right now. So as you can see, it goes to the target, and that's where it should be. We get the bullet start location and use that to make so that when we spawn the arrow, we use that location and rotation to make the projectile to spawn, so that it goes to the directed to the location of where you aim, and it goes to the right location of where the character is aiming. So as you can see, the line trace, it goes to that location where it's hitting. So of course it has some gravity effects. So as you can see, when I aimed on right in the middle of the cross, when I shot, as you can see, it got below, a little bit below. And that's very interesting. So let's just reload and shoot. As you can see now, my aiming is improving. Let me try to reload again. Yeah, right now it's really messy. So what happened in here is attempted to access arrow 1 via property arrow 1, but arrow 1 is not valid. Okay, so we have a problem in our macro that we just done. Yeah, it's weird because made the structure to work without. Let me just do this is if it's valid. This code deserves a screenshot. So basically what it does is we're going to check for each arrow individually. So if the first arrow one is not available, oh yeah, I forgot to do just one thing. Just destroy not the reference of the arrow, but also destroy the arrow reference, the arrow one or arrow reference. If the arrow reference is not valid, yeah, I think it's going to work. So basically, we're going to check if the arrow one is still valid. If it's not valid, means that the arrow was already used. And then it's going to go for the arrow 2, it's going to check for the arrow 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Now, if it's valid, as you can see, all the execution lines goes to the same structure in here. It follows the exact same structure. So if it's valid, then we're going to check the arrow is available. And then that's going to end the execution. So if the first arrow is available, that's going to go to the arrow available. It's going to mark that as true. We're going to get the arrow available Boolean to check if it's really available. And if it's true, we're going to output the execution in here. We're going to follow from there. And we're also going to get the arrow reference of that arrow. And then if all of them are not valid, we're going to go. So if the arrow 1 is not valid, it's going to go for the next one. If the arrow 2 is not valid, it's going to check for all the others until we get to the arrow 5. If that's still not valid, then we're going to check that we're going to set that the arrow is not valid. And be careful with this because we're not going to want to set the set the arrow is available to the auto set in here, which is going to set that the arrow is available. So that's a simple thing to do. Come on. Arrow available. All right, outputs, go there, boom, boom, boom. There you go. So where am I? Where am I? Go to reload. Yeah, I think that's going to be the refinement that I wanted to make. So let's test it out to see if it's going to work. I'll get the bow. Shoot. No, reload first. And shoot. Okay, reload. Okay, so I have an arrow. An error. Attach. Oh, here. We don't have to. It was just one single bug in here that we just had to get the reference right. So this is get arrow. That's not even because of my code. It's because I was getting the wrong arrow reference. That's all. I didn't even needed to do all that. It's just because it was getting the wrong arrow reference. So now I have the right arrow reference because before he was using the arrow 1, which is not right. So you're always going to use the arrow reference to check which one is the current available one, to reload with the bow. So going to reload, shoot, reload again, shoot, and as you can see now my arrow pocket is going to be reducing. And as you can see now, if I try to press R, nothing works. All right, because I don't have any bullets. And I also want to make that clear that I don't have any bullets in here. So print the string. I'm going to get the text color to be red and the key name to be a random number. And in the string, I'm going to set it to be something like ammo doesn't have ammo, something like this. Yeah, I think the key is better to be named as none, so that you can, so as soon as you keep pressing, the key is going to keep spawning the print strings. So shoot. So if I keep pressing, as you can see, it keeps spawning the text right after the other one that doesn't have any bullets. Overall, I think that's a pretty good result so far by me. I'm pretty satisfied with the result. And I think if you use the old method, it's also going to work. So the old method was make an array and add a new pin. So instead of doing all this, which is going to require a little bit of work, we can just get this to be in here. Outputs and inputs to be connected there. That's all that matters. One of the things that really matter. And just press on play and see what happens. Go to the arrow, see, try to reload, shoot, and then reload again. As you can see now, we don't have any arrows as we were having before. And that's basically it. I think we can delete all of this. This requires a little bit of more work, and this is more simplified. So I'm going to post this as a simplified, easier method. All right. All right, that's going to be it. Thanks everyone for watching, and I see you in the next one.